Hello. Thank you for confiding in MKMD Strategic Services in order to analyze the relationship between promotional markdowns and total sales across your 4 international locations. We're happy to show you the findings in our data to answer your pertinent questions and to help your executive team make the most effective business decisions going forward. During this presentation, we will dive into your 4 international locations in Dubai, New York, London, and Munich to analyze the effects of the global pandemic on promotional markdowns and total sales. We will also look at these factors across the 5 departments of automotives, housewares, women's clothing, men's clothing, and electronics. By displaying the possible relationships between cultural and environmental factors, we will help you better understand the variables that influence consumer shopping behavior at any given time. From the questions you provided to us, we were interested in understanding how promotional markdowns affect sales in different departments across 4 key stores around the globe. Which departments see the best results when doing a promotional markdown? How do external factors such as temperature, unemployment, fuel prices, CPI, and holidays affect promotional markdowns in these locations? And of these factors, which one is the best predictor of total sales? Before diving into the questions and the data pulled from SPSS, we first wanted to test the data for normality. When testing for normality, it became clear that the data is not normally distributed. Looking at the total sales across all 4 stores, it is evident from the Sharpio-Wilk that we are not seeing normally distributed data, as the significance of all 4 stores is showing less than 0.001. You can also see that the data is not normally distributed by their skewness and kurtosis, as each of the values exceeded plus or minus 0.8 for skewness and plus or minus 3 for kurtosis. This non-normal distribution can be seen on the provided histograms, which show us that Munich and Dubai had some positively skewed data. The next slide shows the remaining 2 of the 4 stores, which again are not showing normal distribution as demonstrated by the Sharpio-Wilk value, skewness, and kurtosis. There are quite a few outliers in the variable data we will be discussing in today's presentation. However, for the sake of time, we wanted to point out a few abnormalities that are affecting the data. These outliers and abnormalities within the data should be considered. However, all the data in this presentation will be treated as normal.
The first question you provided to us was if total sales for the year exceed $3 million. To answer this question and all the preceding questions, we created null and alternative hypotheses in order to make the resulting data more meaningful. To test this, we ran a descriptive analysis test in SPSS to understand the total sales for the year. When determining total sales, we can indeed see that they are not equal to 3 million. The sum of all total sales for the year were 4,263,565. This causes us to reject the null hypothesis. The next posed question was, did the average total sales per week per store for the year exceed 20,000? To test this, we ran a descriptive analysis test in SPSS. When running this data, the mean of total average sales per week per store exceeded 20,000. This causes us to not reject our null hypothesis. The next question asks if the variability of total sales was greater than 10,000. To test this, we ran a descriptive analysis test in SPSS. We were able to look at the variability of total sales by analyzing the standard deviation. In this data set, the standard deviation from the mean is 19,798. This indicates that the variability of total sales was not equal to 10,000, allowing us to reject the null hypothesis. The next question asks if total sales for the year was equal across all 4 stores. To test this, we ran an explore test in SPSS. When running SPSS, we pulled out the total sales that were the highest and the lowest weeks of sales among your 4 locations. We can see that the highest sales tended to be mainly in Dubai, New York, along with Munich. Of the 5 lowest weeks of sales, or here attributed to London, leading us to see that Dubai and New York are top performing stores. Based on these results, sales are not equal across all stores, allowing us to reject the null hypothesis.
The next question that we are looking at is if total sales from promotional markdowns for the year are equal across all 5 departments. To test this, we conducted a frequency analysis. When analyzing the mean across all 5 departments, we can see that yearly sales are not equal. Automotives were the highest performing department and women's clothing was the lowest. You wanted to know if the average total sales for the year on holidays are equal to the average total sales on non-holidays. To understand this, we ran an independent sample t-test in SPSS. In the t-test, it tested for equal variances. That means that SPSS looked to see if the standard deviation or the variance between holiday and non-holidays are different from each other. Because the significance level is less than 0.05, we assume that the variances are not equal, which means we can reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative. We can conclude that sales on holidays are significantly higher than on non-holidays. In fact, sales on holidays versus non-holidays are almost doubled. The next question was comparing average total sales across locations. Was Munich the top performing store by more than $10,000? To test this, we ran a one-way ANOVA. From this data output, we're paying attention to the third line, which is store, and the significant value, which you can see is less than 0.05. We can also look at the model data in the first line, which too is providing a significant value of less than 0.05. This gives us enough information to reject the null hypothesis and conclude that Munich is not the top performing store by more than $10,000. Next, how is the consumer price index and total sales for the year related? To test this, we ran a linear regression in SPSS. When running a linear regression, we can see that the F statistic model, the overall value is non-significant. The F statistic is 1 over 206 degrees of freedom. The F change is 7.815, and we can see that the p-value is greater than 0.001. So we have a non-significant predicting model for a simple linear regression, which helps us understand that there is not enough information to indicate a significant relationship between CPI and total sales. The following question was to see if unemployment and total sales for the year are related. To test this, we ran a linear regression in SPSS. When running a linear regression in SPSS, we can see in our F statistic model, the overall value is non-significant, as the p-value is greater than 0.001. So we have a non-significant predicting model for linear regression, which helps us understand that there is not enough information to indicate a significant relationship between employment and total sales. Additionally, temperature and total sales for the year, are they related? To test this, we ran a linear regression in SPSS. In this data, we can see in our F statistic model that the overall value is significant as the p-value is less than 0.001. So we have a significant predicting model for simple linear regression, which helps us understand that there is enough information to indicate a significant relationship between temperature and total sales. This shows us that the total sales increase as the temperatures decrease. The next question was to compare CPI, unemployment, and temperature to determine if CPI was the best predictor of total sales for the year. To test this, we ran a linear regression in SPSS. When running this data, we identified that CPI is the best indicator of total sales for the year. And we know this because for every 1 unit increase in CPI, there's a negative 0.490 standard deviation in total sales. For every 1 unit increase change in unemployment, there's a 0.367 standard deviation change in total sales. And for every 1 unit increase in temperature, there's a negative 0.253 standard deviation change in total sales. The negative 0.490 standard deviation value for CPI is the highest value of all those versus unemployment and temperature, thus indicating that CPI is the best predictor of total sales for the year.
You wanted to know if Munich is the top performing store for housewares. So to test this, we ran a one-way ANOVA in SPSS. When running this test, we can see the output here for the Munich store. In the third line, you see that the significance value is 0.220, which is greater than 0.05. With only one measure, this, which is promotional markdown 2, also known as housewares, the significance level in the first line is also 0.220. This value is the same as the overall F test that the model provides us. We can conclude that we do not have enough information to reject the null hypothesis. You were interested in having us frame our own question. The question we were interested in is if fuel prices have a significant impact on total sales for the year. To test this, we ran a linear regression in SPSS. When analyzing this data, we can see in our F-statistic model the overall value is significant as the p-value is less than 0.001. So we have a significant predicting model for linear regression, which helps us understand that there is enough information to indicate a significant relationship between fuel prices and total sales. This shows that total sales increase as fuel prices decrease. We have two sets of recommendations. First, we want to capitalize on strengths. Munich is the top performing store in housewares. Automotives and electronics were the top performing departments across all stores. We recommend that you expand the housewares department in Munich, along with expanding the automotive and electronics departments at all locations to increase total yearly sales. Because sales increase on holidays versus non-holidays, we believe you'll see an increase in sales in lower performing departments, specifically men's clothing, women's clothing, and electronics, if you were to run more promotional markdowns on holidays. And lastly, we recommend that you increase promotional markdowns when you see fuel prices and temperature decrease, as they produce a positive correlation on total sales. Our second area of recommendations will address some pain points. Between the holiday weeks of week 6 and 36, there's a lull in sales. Consider creating a signature sale unique to the brand to attract customers and boost sales during that traditionally low sales period. We also notice that sales in the automotive and men's clothing departments spike 1 week before holidays. So in order to meet this demand, ensure inventories are high. For our recommendations, we would advise you to take a look at the London store to understand why it is struggling, urging you to conduct market research of the London area. That may provide additional insight to understand possible environmental, socioeconomic, or competitive factors that may be at play. 92% of women's clothing sales happen in one single week, week 47. We need to find ways to make it grow and sustain profitability throughout the year. Otherwise, it may not be worth keeping. We have some further recommendations considering the COVID-19 pandemic and the accompanying sharp rise in e-commerce. A drop in sales at brick and mortar locations, regardless of fuel prices, weather, and other factors, is to be expected in these times. And it's important to provide a seamless online shopping experience to your customers. Keep these things in mind. Less people traveling and driving to work may negatively impact automotive sales. A decrease in new apparel needed to go to work may impact men's and women's clothing. With people working from home, housewares and electronic sales opportunities will increase. We anticipate a slow but steady rebound of sales across departments as the economy recovers in all 4 countries and in-store shopping resumes. Thank you.